Okay, afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all along to this special meeting of the Finance and Resources Committee. As I think you're all aware, there's one specific item on the agenda this afternoon on why we've called this special committee, and that's the paper on the new executive and strategic leadership structure. That section is going to be chaired by Councillor Laying as the Vice Convener of Finance and Resources, also as Council Leader. We'll come to that in just a second, but can I ask, first of all, Kirsten, do we have apologies? And there are one or two.
Thanks, Convener. Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Rebeck with Councillor Massey substituting, and from Provost McDade with Councillor McCall substituting, from Councillor Duff with Councillor James substituting, and from Councillor Chan with Councillor Illingworth substituting. For members online, when I call out your name, could you please confirm you're present? Bailey.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Forbes.
Yes, good afternoon, I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor James.
Hi, Kirsten. Yes.
And Councillor McEwen.
Present.
Thank you. All members are present.
Okay, thank you, Kirsten. Right, only one other item here, and that is, are there any declarations of interest? There being none, I'm now going to move on to the paper itself, and I'm going to hand over to Councillor Grant-Laying. Grant.
Thank you, Convener, and I will move straight on to the substantive item 3, and I will ask Thomas Glenn, the Chief Executive, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Deputy Convener. Thank you, members. The report in front of you today, I think, has been well trailed, so I'll keep my remarks brief at the beginning. The purpose of this report is to provide you with an update on the Council's leadership review as approved by yourselves in June of last year. Additionally, what the report does is it sets out recommendations from myself as your head of paid staff in terms of changes to your executive leadership and strategic leadership structures. But I'm keen to ensure that we don't focus just on the structural changes that are being proposed within this report. The leadership review is fourfold and is detailed at 4.16. Finally, the report sets out the process that will seek to be implemented subject to your approval today, and that will provide necessary updates to you through Finance and Resources in line with the wider approved transformation programme. Happy to take any further questions, Deputy Convener.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. I would ask MD who has any questions to put a queue in the usual format in the chat, please. Bailey.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing the report. My question is about section 7.3 in the report. That's on page 23. It mentions that trade unions have been consulted with, which I applaud. It states and uses some very particular verbiage there. It says the trade unions have not raised any formal objection to any of the proposals. I just want to ask the question, did they raise any informal objections or concerns about the proposals? Thank you.
Thanks. I think that'll be Pauline to answer that.
Trade unions sought some clarification during the consultation process, and there was no objections raised to the responses they received to those, and they were happy and satisfied with the answers, and no formal objections were raised at any time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pauline. Councillor Shires.
Thank you, Vice Convener. My question's on 4.25 of the report. I can't see the page number because I've just deleted it. We very much welcomed the increased visibility of the senior officer team of the council out in communities. obviously that's going to take up quite a lot of time for you to do that. But it was kind of sorry, I've left my notes on my desk upstairs, so I'm making it up on the hoof now. It was how would you envisage continuing to do that under this new framework, given that it has been extremely well received by communities. It's really important to us as elected members that there is that visibility out in the communities that we represent, and it's I guess looking for an assurance that that would be able to be continued. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll pass to the Chief Executive, but I would imagine that that not only would it be the directors and senior politicians that would be continuing to go out and visit, but I think strategic leads would have a role in engaging with the communities in their particular lead. But I'll pass to the Chief Executive.
Thanks, Councillor Shires. I think it's been a really helpful process for me personally as part of my early learning about not just the council but about the communities that we serve. I think the feedback from our team has been very positive on the whole, despite me dragging them to Letham on a cold Tuesday morning in February for the first time, and wherever else we've been. So I think it's nice to hear that there's been positive feedback, and we have had some of that, I have to say, from people directly. There is absolutely a commitment to continue a programme of engagement. We are back meeting with some of those that we met last year over the next couple of months. I think it's Pitlochry next month. We're due back in Keith and others to follow. So there is that commitment to continue. I think one of the things that we do have to do through that is to look at where we take the conversations on from the initial conversations, because they were very much a listening conversation, and it was about tell us your experience of the council, tell us your experience of engaging with us. I think as we move on, I think it needs to become much more about how do we work with communities in terms of the role that we all have in delivering the strategic priorities that the council has set. Another thing which I think is important for us, and I'll thank Councillor Cuthbert for this piece of feedback, is that I think I need to get better when I'm feeding back to you as elected members about what we are hearing from those conversations. I think reasonably Councillor Cuthbert had challenged us to say, well, what are you getting back? And I think that would be a useful thing for us to do, just as a matter of course, to provide feedback to the relevant ward members so that they're aware of what we're hearing when we're out listening to communities. So absolutely a commitment to continue and certainly a commitment to improve the feedback.
Thanks. Councillor James.
Thanks, Deputy Convener. I've got a couple of questions, and I think they're probably both aimed at Chief Executive. 5.26, which is page 17 on the report. Can you tell us what was the rationale for strategic planning with one director, but the delivery with a different director? Was there a reason for doing that? Thank you. And do you want me to give you the second question at the same time, or can I come back to that, Convener?
I think we'll just let you have your second one at the same time, and perhaps the Chief Executive can answer them both at once.
And again, probably quite an easy one for Thomas, which is on page 20 of the report, 6.6, 6.7, and the table. Is he happy that the salaries are set at a satisfactory level, and are they competitive in comparison to other local authorities? Thanks for
that. Thomas.
Thanks again, and thanks, Councillor James. Taking the first question at 5.26, what we've tried to do within the structure is I've tried to ensure that we create what I've affectionately described as an organisational brain. We have got lots of very talented people across our organisation who are involved in different bits of policy, different bits of strategy development, different bits of performance planning. I think we can get even better by bringing those together and to consolidating them into what we are affectionately describing as an organisational brain, but within that element under strategy, people and resources, we will bring that group of functions together. But Having said that, that is about the strategy and policy element. It's still important that we ensure the delivery, and I think you talked about strategic partnership, but it's about the local planning, the locality planning, that is still delivered principally by those services who are involved in the education and people learning side of things. So it is about trying to make sure that that relationship is strong between the organisational brain and the frontline delivery of services. If that's enough on your first item, I'll respond to
Thanks.
the second item regarding 6.7 and page 21 on the posts. You, I'm sure, will be aware, as it predates me, the council had previously undertaken an initial phase of job evaluation through Corn Ferry, or Hayes as it was then known, and it's still the Hayes scale that we're using. But that looked at the executive director and executive team level posts. What we've done in this process is that we have continued that principle and sought an independent job evaluation of all of the executive and strategic leadership posts in the organisation. Now, the organisation who do that for us, Corn Ferry, they do carry out benchmarking across both the public and the private sector. And I won't make any comment on whether I'm satisfied or not, but I would only say that the benchmarking that we've received highlights that we are in the lower end of the public pay scales. But for local government generally, we are pretty consistent. And it's when you look at public pay, it's other sectors of public pay that tend to increase the public sector pay levels, not local government. So I think we're consistent and we're competitive in terms of the levels that we've landed at through the job evaluation exercise.
Happy, Ian?
Yeah, thanks for that. I suppose my concern with the last bit, Deputy Convener, was that, you know, we'd lose, you know, because we were at a lower end, that we'd lose really good staff to other authorities. But I'm quite heartened. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, Vice Convener. This is going to be a particularly stressful time for the 17 people in scope of the review, and on top of already demanding jobs. And I wanted to know what arrangements are being put in place to provide emotional and pastoral and other supports to those members of staff throughout the process.
Thomas.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett, and I may also invite, if you're content, Pauline in with just some comments on what's provided through HR. But can I kick off by saying I thank you to everybody who has been involved in this process. This process has been challenging for everybody over the last 8 or 9 months. And without exception, everybody within the executive and extended executive team has engaged in it with good intentions, has been positive in their feedback. And I would extend that to my comments with the trade unions. The question that was asked by Bailey earlier on. Our trade union colleagues, again, have been involved not just through the formal consultation, that 21 days, but we've met them on a number of occasions just to keep them up to date. And I'd like to think that keeping them up to date has helped in terms of the feedback that we've received from them. So that process of engagement has been ongoing. As the leadership team, we've structured one-to-ones with all of the team, so there's a regular mechanism for people to raise any concerns. But we do recognise that this type of change is disruptive and it is challenging, not just for that team, but for the wider organisation as well. There will be legitimate concerns about what this means for the individuals, but also what it means for teams that work to those individuals. And we are hearing bits of that, and we're reflecting on that, and we're ensuring that we try and make available as much communication as we possibly can. But this change does cause a degree of concern, and we are very aware of that. But there is a programme of support that's available through HR, and perhaps Pauline might want to say a wee bit more about that.
Thank you, Pauline.
Yeah, we prepared frequently asked questions for those that were affected by the change, as well as having individual meetings and collective meetings with those in scope. And as part of that, we signposted individuals to our areas of support and asked them to think about what else they would need as the process progresses. So not just what they're feeling right now, but what they would actually need moving into the next steps, whether that be recruitment or if they wish to exit the organisation, what that would look like. So they were signposted to coaching, the counselling service, always learning pages. We made sure that they were aware of all opportunities that were out there for them, whether it was inside the council and external support that we also supply to our individuals during any process where we're managing change. And everybody will feel different at different points as the process progresses. So being mindful of that and asking them to speak to us about what would be appropriate for them and what that would look like, whether that's one-to-one coaching, whether that would be interview training and preparation, because they may not have done that for a while. So getting them to think differently about what they would need. And the leadership competencies framework looks at what we need to do in terms of performance and development and what that would look like for them if they're appointed in terms of reasonable training and support into their new roles. So we do have workshops created for transition planning, and we'll look at what individuals needed as part of that process as well.
Thanks. Are you okay with that response? Thanks. Councillor Councillor Illingworth.
Right. Thank you, Vice Convener. Nothing in life is risk-free, and it seems to me there's a number of risks relating to single points of failure and a lack of resilience and redundancy in the system, and that there could be risks about losing a lot of corporate knowledge from this corporate brain of yours. How are you going to manage those risks?
Thomas.
Thanks, Councillor Illingworth. You're absolutely correct. There is a degree of risk in managing any transition of this nature. And the first thing we want to do is acknowledge that. We've been very clear that this process comes with a degree of risk. I anticipate that there will be individuals who I will look to support to leave the organisation through this process, and I'll seek your support to that recommendation later in July. And what we'll have to do is we'll have to look at a programme to manage the departure of those individuals and what intelligence, what knowledge they've got as much as we possibly can. Now, that's assisted by the fact that we've got a really strong leadership team where there is that experience shared across not just director level posts, but strategic lead level posts as well. So we will look at a series of workshops. The first of those kicks off in the middle of July, where the executive leadership team and then the extended leadership team are involved in a series of planning exercise to look at the transitions that we'll have to put in place. Because right now I know that there will definitely be risks, and I know what some of those risks are in terms of the context we're currently working within. We still have to address wider transformation programmes. We still have to deliver on the budget and financial challenges that we've got. We still have to deliver on the corporate priorities we've got. But some of the risks we don't know yet, because we don't know where people will sit in the organisation at a point, and we'll only begin to know that from the time when we begin the recruitment of the directors. So as each of those points is reached, we will have to reassess what the risks are and how we manage those transitions. And that will be something that we will regularly update through that risk and transition process. So we do have a programme and a model for doing that.
Councillor Illingworth.
Yeah, it makes me feel a bit nervous that we're taking on quite a lot of risks, given that we already have a fairly lean management structure. Then we may be making it too thin, but I thought I'd raise that point. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, Vice Convener. My question relates to pages 18 and 19. It's to do with the structure under the different lead officers. Under housing and communities, there is listed community engagement. Under strategic planning, people and performance, there is community empowerment / engagement. And I think health and social care partnership have probably got their own community engagements. I'm just a little bit confused why it's appearing in many places. Are they different sorts of engagement, or are they going to be, are we going to get rid of the silos, so to speak?
Thomas?
Thank you, Councillor Cuthbert. Yeah, I mean, we will engage with communities right across our structure. We recognise that. 2 points specifically in relation to your question. One, go back to what I said earlier on, we need somewhere central in the organisation that looks at how do we coordinate and take as much learning as we can from the various bits of engagement that we've gone across different service areas. So that bit that's sitting at the centre under the strategic planning, people and performance will be that place where we draw together all of that evidence from engagement as well as evidence from data. So that's the role that will play there. The second point I would make, and again, it's something that you're very familiar with, Councillor Cuthbert, is that we have an ongoing transformation workstream looking at community engagement just now. How we do it, where we do it, when we do it, with whom do we do that. So that engagement transformation workstream will help inform what our future model is for engagement. So that will feed into helping that organisational brain understand, but then helping services locally, and whether it's in housing and communities or elsewhere, to look at how they engage with communities. Because we see that engagement in green space, we see that engagement in waste, we see that engagement in lots of different areas. So it is about that centre helping organisational services. And if I can, through you, Deputy Convener, can I just go back to very briefly the comment that Councillor Illingworth raised about the nervousness, about the leanness of the structure. I think that's a legitimate nervousness that you've seen within the papers. The size and shape of our leadership team has changed significantly since 1996, and we will continue to do so as we move forward. But there's a really important cultural question that we have to address here, and it's about the nature of what we ask that leadership team to do. Members of my leadership team spend significant amounts of time responding to operational matters which have no place at a strategic level and should be being dealt with by other people inside our organisation who have got that operational responsibility. So I think culturally, we need to have a conversation with members, with the public, with partners about the role that you expect that executive and strategic leadership team to play. I know of instances where there'll be 8, 9 members of staff right through different strata of our organisation who are engaged on different inquiries from the public and from members. And that's an exceptionally poor use of officer time. And if we are going to ask executive team to operate at that level, then it will require a change in some of our own culture and our own behaviours. And it will require us to look as officers at some of the services, structures and processes that we have created over many years, and whether or not they are the types of places that we should be committing our energies to, or whether we focus more on the delivery of our strategic priorities. So that will be, in some places in our organisation, a change in culture and a change in behaviour. And I think that will be a change in how at times we engage with elected members in the public. And if we do that successfully, then I'm less concerned about the leanness of the executive and strategic team, because they will be focused on what it is that you're asking them to do, which is to lead on the 7 strategic priorities that you've set for Council.
Thanks. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Vice Convener. I hope I know the answer to this, but just to confirm my understanding, the paper mentions in a couple of places one-off costs associated with, for example, voluntary severance. Just to understand properly that there is an earmarked reserve set aside for this in terms of transformation and change, and this is not additional monies that will be sought out of the Council's budget.
Thomas.
That's absolutely my understanding, and I know that Mr. Walker has got money squirreled away in that transformation and change reserve.
Thanks. Do we have any other questions? I see no other questions, so I will move the report. Colleagues, last year the Council approved a new financial strategy, a new transformation and change strategy, and a new corporate plan which set out a clear direction. These all focus the Council on what makes the most difference to the people most in need, to listen to our communities and empower them to be the change they want to see, to be responsive, visible and accessible to residents, working in those communities and alongside local people and partner organisations, and to make best use of the limited resources we have available. As elected members, this is what we have charged our Chief Executive and officers to deliver. So this report is not just about structures, it's about how the officers in our team lead, the culture and behaviours we want to grow, and how they engage inside and outside the organisation, and what competences and performance the Chief Executive expects on our behalf. The report today sets out a new operating model, leadership structure, and details of how this will be implemented. They are all based around making sure that the Council is organised to deliver the change that is needed now and in the future. It is a more flexible, focused structure which clearly aligns the delivery of services with the priorities we have agreed and our communities have told us are most important. Any change brings disruption, can be challenging, but also offers us opportunities to improve. We don't yet know what the full impact on staff involved will be, as individuals have still to make their own decisions about whether they wish to take this opportunity to move on. However, as we recognised in the question, that this is a time, with any time of change, people will understandably be nervous about what this means for them. And I'd like to add my thanks to the Chief Executive for the way the current leadership teams have engaged with developing this new structure. The new executive and strategic leadership structure is an important part of continuing to build on the good culture in our team and helping in reshaping and reorganising the Council to deliver what we, as elected members, have agreed should be our priorities. We should support the Chief Executive's proposal and approach to making this happen. So I'm very happy to move this paper. I'll ask if I have a seconder.
I'm more than happy to second this report. And can I just add, I too would like to thank the Chief Executive and the leadership team for the immense amount of work that's gone into this report. It really has been very considerable, but certainly second the report.
Thank you, Convener. I'll open up for comments on the report. If there are no comments on the report, can we agree this report? Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and thanks for your attendance today, and thanks for giving up a Tuesday for this important paper which we had to take. So thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.